Welcome back, everybody. We are finishing up section 7.2 today, and this time we're talking about summation notation. So let's look a little bit at the summation notation itself. On the top is what I call your stop term. So we will be stopping at the 10th term. The bottom is the term that you're starting with. So we're starting at the first term and stopping at the 10th term, meaning we're finding the sum of the first 10 terms. This would be S sub 10 if we were looking at it with the notation we used in the last video. The 4i minus 8 is the rule. And remember, in sequences, rules are what the term they use for equations. I'm looking at example A. It's saying that we're finding the sum of the first 10 terms, starting with 1 and then stopping at 10. So I'm going to start with finding what is the first term. Oops, I don't want S1. So I want to find the first term. That means I'm going to use the rule and plug in 1 for I. They're replacing D with I or K or X. 4 times 1 minus 8 is negative 4. Then I want to find the 10th term. So 4 times 10 minus 8, 40 minus 8 is 32. Now that I know the first term and the last term, I can use our sum formula, the first one that we talked about in the last video, S sub 10 is equal to 10 over 2 times the first term, which is negative 4, plus the last term, which is 32. I do that math and I end up with 5 times 28. And that sum is 140. So the answer to this problem is 140. So if I take a look at letter B, my start is at term number 3, and then I am stopping at term number 9. Because we're not finding from start to finish, there's another way that we can look at this problem, and that is to write this as a list of values. So our third term, using that rule, is 4 minus 3 times 3. Then it wants me to go to the fourth term. So 4 minus 3 times 4. Then it wants me to go to the fifth term, 4 minus 3 times 5. Remember, K gets replaced with these numbers all the way to 9. Plus 4 minus 3 times 6. Plus 4 minus 3 times 7. Plus 4 minus 3 times 8. Plus 4 minus 3 times 9. So I'm going to do all of this math. See, that's 4 minus 9, which is negative 5. 4 minus 12 is negative 8. 4 minus 15 is negative 11. And we're adding these. Plus 4 minus 18 is negative 14. Plus 4 minus 21 is negative 17. It looks like this is changing by 3 every time. We're subtracting 3 every time. So my 8th term should be negative 20, and then my 9th term would be negative 23. So I can add all these values up in my calculator, and then the sum of terms 3 through 9 will be negative 98. But is there a way for us to do this in our calculator? And the answer to that is yes. So I'm going to come back here to this first example that we did. And following in your notes at the bottom, there are these steps that we're doing listed again. But I want to go into math. And I'm going to use my down arrow until I find summation. So there's summation, and it's got that E there. So once I find this, I'm going to hit enter. And you can see now that it gives me the same format that I have in this example. The only thing you're going to need to do is make sure that any I or K or T or whatever letter they're using, we have to use X. And remember, it's the variable X. So we're using the xt theta n next to the alpha. So I have X, and this is starting at 1 on the bottom. And then at the top, we have 10. And then we fill in our rule. Remember, instead of 4i, it's 4x minus 8. I'll hit my arrow key to get out of that and enter. And we have 140. So let's try example C. And again, I'm going to go math. I'm going to find that summation. Hit enter. Start with X. And on C, our start term is the 5th term. So we have the 5th term. Arrow, we're stopping at the 12th term. So 12 goes on the top. And the equation on the side, remember, instead of 5i, it's 5x minus 10. You have to use the x up here next to the alpha. Otherwise, the other x's could have a different value assigned, and you're not going to get the right answer there. I hit enter, and the answer to this sum is 260. So let's try example D. I'm going to hit math, find the summation, enter. Start with the x because we don't use I or K or anything else. And our start term here is 5. So we're starting at the 5th term. And we want to stop at the 10th term. And our equation is 8 minus 2. And again, we're changing that K to X. And so the answer to letter D would be negative 42. If you added from the 5th term to the 10th term, you would get a total of negative 42. So that's it for section 7-2. See y'all next time.